Morning, Raptor Freak Alexiot here. It's Saturday, so it is the Saturday Show Love, Share Love Club, which we take somebody from the Raptors organization and we talk about gratitude and appreciation for them for various reasons. And today it's Masai Ujiri, the team president. I wanted to talk because he had such a great interview this week. I just felt like we need to show appreciation for this man because of what he said this week and just who he is and what he is all about. Because it's absolutely amazing that we have him for our team president because he's one of a kind, and we are so lucky that he is loyal and committed to running the Toronto Raptors. That there was a whole period of time in the mid 2010s where it was a real threat that he would be lured away by another team. There was the whole Washington Wizards thing. There was a New York Knicks thing for a little while. And then of course the Lakers have had their eyes on him at different times and wanting him to come and run their team. But to understand Masai Ujiri, you need to understand where he comes from, as far as like when he started with the Orlando Magic as a scout. He wasn't getting paid hardly anything. In fact, he was losing money working for the Orlando Magic because he had to travel at his own expense. And he was living in his car at times when he was working for the Magic in the 90s. So we all need to realize where this man was, like, early in his NBA career and how he's ascended to get to this position with the Toronto Raptors as a team president with a contract that is amazing from last year. I mean, we've speculated how much he's making per year is quite a bit, and we have speculated how long the contract is. It's quite long. So these are all good things because we want him under contract and steering the ship for the Raptors as long as possible. Because listen, when I met Masai Ujiri personally myself in 2014, it was at a taping of the George Strombolopoulos show at CBC headquarters in downtown Toronto, where they had their studios. And I basically just moved back to Toronto from Florida at that time, and I was staying at my grandmother's. And I was like, just saw something on Facebook, an announcement. Hey, come and be in our audience at George Strombolopoulos show. The guest is Masai Ujiri. And I'm like, whoa, I'll jump at that. So I jumped at the chance to get free tickets and be in the studio audience for that taping. And like I said, this was in 2014. It was right before Kyle Lowry was a free agent that summer, and we had not fully locked him up at that point. This is 2014, y'all. This is like way back. His first contract was up for the Raptors, and I was in the crowd yelling at Masai. I was like, "Resign Lowry," and saying stuff like that, and just it was a hilarious interview that day with George, because he basically in it he said that he basically said something similar to what he said this week towards the Lakers to the Knicks. He was telling them, yeah, Phil Jackson, yeah, he's cool, but I don't really care. And like, yeah, I'm not really interested in New York. He's like, they can dream about getting me also. And I love that 8 years later, this man has still stayed true to his word, that he hasn't cut and run, that he's a very smart guy. First of all, he's seen the potential in the environment here in Toronto and how he could get things done and have be very successful and have all these great things here. And maybe he saw the lay of the land with other franchises and just the headaches, the stumbling blocks, the different things that might hold him up from having to be able to do his job to the best of his ability because of whatever reason. And he saw the settings here in Toronto were just fantastic. And thank you, Tim Lewicki, for bringing him here in the first place. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Tim Lewicki, for bringing Masai Ujiri to Toronto in the first place, because it's a very, very important thing in the history of the Raptors. And maybe one of the most important things that ever happened to the Raptors is Tim Lewicki being in Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment and getting Masai Ujiri hired on as our GM and stuff. All right, let's see. G's here. G's saying Masai is very motivational, extremely motivational. That is something I love about him. Like, he's kind of like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, people listen. Like, they shut up and they're like, oh, Masai's speaking. I want to hear what he's saying. And like, because he really does say some amazing things, whether it's Raptor fans, whether it's just people in general, they like to hear him speak because he's very inspirational. And he's also very, He's just real. He's real. Like that's one of the things you like. If he comes to the microphone, he's not going to give you lip service. He's going to tell it to you straight and be his real, authentic self. And he's just a badass for that and stuff like that. Tom Duke is here. Good to see Tom Duke as usual. Good morning, Tom. I can imagine you in the crowd. So cool meeting Masai. Yeah, it was awesome. I was wearing my JYD jersey, the one I eventually got signed. I didn't have it signed at that time, and after the show, I was talking to George Strombolopoulos and just kind of hanging out. Like it was the after show thing, and the crowd's coming out. And Masai walked over, and I shook his hand. I said, "Thank you for fixing my favorite sports team in the whole entire world," is what I said to Masai Ujiri. I said, "Thank you for doing it." And this was in 2014, guys. This is way before the championship. This is way before, a lot of the great success we've had in the 8 years since. So it's like I was thanking him because I knew it was all coming, and also I knew that he was just getting us right in our ship. From the Bosch era was very dysfunctional in different ways, and then the beginning of the 2010s when Masai came in and started making deals and stuff like fantastic work. And I do feel really glad and privileged that I got the opportunity to thank him personally to his face. And let's see, Tom Duke saying, agree totally. Gee, glad Masai knows he is home. I believe this, and I'm happy he is running things. Such a good example. Yeah, I have a whole list of like six things about Masai Ujiri that I really love and appreciate about him. And number one on the list is his intelligence, is his aptitude. And this is actually what got him his foot in the door with the NBA in the first place, that he was a very astute scout, that he was somebody that really got good information for teams like Orlando and Denver early in his career about players and how good they could be and stuff like that. And he found success with it, and he just kept getting kicked up. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to start your career out not making a whole lot of money and doing hard grunt work to get some traction and get going somewhere where it does happen. I mean, you think about what I just said. He was losing money as a scout for Orlando, sleeping in his car, paying more money than he was making. And now look where he is with his contract. I think it's speculated that he makes $10 million a year as the team president of the Raptors at this point. And Ted Rogers III, you can fuck right off with saying that he doesn't deserve the money, because we all know he deserves the money. In fact, people that aren't even basketball fans look from the outside in, Canadians, they say this may be the greatest manager of a sports team in the history of Canadian sports. Doesn't matter what sport. It could be hockey, it can be baseball, it can be basketball. That Masai Ujiri is the greatest GM in the history of Canadian sports franchises. And I truly believe that the man has a certain intelligence and aptitude that's not only gauging basketball players and their possibilities for the future as far as how they can grow and get better, but also with employees, with people that he has on his staff, just in various different positions. He's really smart about who he puts where and gets the job. I mean, as evidenced by Nick Nurse. Like, when Dwayne Casey got fired after that year, I was like, what the fuck? Why are we firing Casey? I was like, I was really surprised by it. It didn't make sense to me at that time because he was just made coach of the year. And then I was like, well, that must mean Jerry Stackhouse is on his way up from the G League to be the head coach of the Toronto Raptors. Well, I was wrong. And I didn't realize that Masai Ujiri in some ways had already been grooming Nick Nurse for this job that he's in now, and that he saw the potential of Nick Nurse as a head coach more than some other people did probably, and that was always the person all along that would step into the shoes there, because it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, well, you're bringing up an assistant, Nick Nurse. What? This isn't flashy. This isn't anything. And I was like, well, this is kind of confusing to me. But right off the bat, in Nick Nurse's first year as a head coach, he was running wins like crazy. They went on a crazy win streak in the beginning of the 2018 season to 2019 championship. And that was just pure, Masai Ujiri understanding his aptitude, gauging that Nick Nurse could become the coach that he is today. And that he took that gamble on him and did that move. That was pretty impressive to me. So, yeah, his intelligence and aptitude is just really strong and really good. And he's just such a good judge of character and hard workers and people that are the right people for the right job. The other thing that we've already touched on is his loyalty and his commitment. This is the thing. This guy, a lot of people are out there just to make a buck, just to make the most money as possible. But this isn't necessarily what Masai Ujiri wanted to do. It's just at this point, he is worth the money that he's making at this point. This is a huge amount of money that he's making, this new contract he signed last year, last summer, but he absolutely is worth it. And I'll tell you that this is the thing. He showed a certain loyalty and commitment to the city of Toronto early on that he didn't have to do. That, once he showed with some of the moves he did, like the Rudy Gay trade, Andrea Bargnani shipped to New York, various different early moves. He was already showing the signs of being a very skilled GM and somebody that other teams would absolutely covet. And that period of time from like maybe 2012 to 2015, 2016, he was really like he could have been poached from our team. It could have taken the Lakers just saying, "Hey, boom, we have this amount of money and we want you here," or something like that. Washington, New York. And he refused it all. He had those offers. They came to him and he said, "No, no, no, no. I'm committed to Toronto, that I've come here and I see the potential here and I'm committed to seeing it through." And that's his whole thing is he wanted to see it through and he was committed to it. And he established a loyalty with the city of Toronto and the franchise of the Toronto Raptors. It's really, really super important because in today's NBA, there's so much superstar players, good coaches, good GMs switching around as far as like just going for the money or just going for trying to get for the better position in different ways. And Masai worked through the hard stuff here in Toronto to get to the promised land. And now he's just really enjoying it. And it's the kind of thing where it's like him and Nick should really be kind of lifetime employees for us. Like, just if they're only good, this is the only team that Masai Ujiri is team president of, and this is the only team that Nick Nurse is the head coach of, that will be a fantastic thing because these are quality people that really lock down these spots for our team. Where we don't need to worry or question whether we've got good people. And that is most of the NBA otherwise, as far as those positions. People are like, our head coach, Doc Rivers, Daryl Morey, kind of stuff. All right, let's see. G saying, did you see Chap say he would love to come back to the Raptors? Yes, I did just see this morning, G. That's awesome. He said he's always ready to be ready for We the North. And that's fantastic, Rondé Hollis Jefferson. We appreciate that. Honestly, I didn't totally understand why you were off the team all of a sudden. I think it was just kind of switching things around and stuff like that. But also, you got to remember that Hollis Jefferson's also kind of on the fringe of being in the NBA or not. And that, who knows? It could be that he's not anymore in the league. But I always thought that he was a good, scrappy guy. And he's, even though he's a shorter forward, he's kind of 6'5", 6'6". His arms are very long. And he I don't know. I think he could fit kind of in the position, the scheme like Gary does. That if he did come back here in some sort of way. I don't know. Let's look at it. I mean, he may be good veteran presence. He could be all kinds of different things. I'd have no problem with Chap. I thought that he was great in the year or so that he was on the team. And I was mystified why we let him go at a certain point. Raymond Jacobs saying Rondé Hollis Jefferson reminds him of Tupac. yeah, I can kind of see the resemblance a bit in a way and stuff like that. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, I saw that. That's very interesting. I guess he's not affiliated with another team, so he can say that and stuff like that. But another thing I just want to say real quick, because I showed that I didn't really know what I was talking about with the draft picks and the free agency this summer. I've actually gone and done a ton of research in the last 2 days, and I'm much more up to speed on possible draft people and also on free agents, guys. But we don't have to talk about that too much right now, but just so you guys know, I can come from a more educated opinion at this point. And there's some people that I really like and stuff like that. But let's keep going with this for right now. So the other thing I really like about Masai Ujiri is his style. Like, the man has class. Like, you see what he wears. He's always wearing very nice, understated style. His style is very similar to kind of like if I had a lot of money, I'd wear clothes like him and stuff like that because it's very understated but very classy and stuff like that. And he's also got like some people don't like him for this. They're usually racist, but he has a certain kind of level of self-respect for himself that he doesn't let people punk him, doesn't let people talk down to him, that he stands up for himself. And that is really important and good to see, especially because of what, his background and where he came from and like things like that. And that in on this continent, that more African American or just African executives that are in charge and doing power positions like the one he's doing is a really good example for people of all walks of life that show that you can achieve and get to these really crazy heights in your career and what you do. And that he's that a personification of just style, class, and just being, carrying yourself a certain way. But also at the same time, he's not uppity as far as like he's a snob. He's not somebody, he's like very grounded and down to earth, but there's also a certain level of just regular like level of class. And some people say, well, he doesn't know class. He said, fuck Brooklyn. And he told LA to keep dreaming this week. I'm like, well, yeah, he does though. Listen to him and really watch him and see the respect that he demands of you, of him, and then he, in a way, reverses it and demands yourself to respect yourself in the same way, the other way. I don't know how he does it exactly, but he's pretty awesome. G saying, did you see Embiid complain about the Raps fans? Yes. I did watch this last night. I watched all of their post game interviews last night. It's really humdrum, kind of boring shit, other than what Embiid said. And listen, you're once again contradicting yourself, Joel. You're not making any fucking sense because you're saying that, like, all right, they don't bother me. They don't get in. They don't bother me when they say this. But then you turn around and you say it does bother me that they're saying F Embiid. So it's like you're contradicting yourself. You can't have it both ways, man. And listen, by saying that we're not in your head and talking about us a week after you haven't been playing us, we're in your head. You're basically fucking lying because we're in your head if you're still talking about Toronto Raptors fan nation. And we don't give a shit if you like us or not. Like, it's funny that you said that. You're like, I used to really respect and like their crowd. In fact, he said it after a couple of games early in the series. But he's like, now hearing what they've been saying since my injury and also the fucking bead chants is like, I don't like them anymore. Okay, good. Because we don't like you either. And now that that's all cleared up and everything's fine with that, that's good. We can just keep it this way for right now. At least we know where we stand and we're not trying to be fake like, oh, I love him. Oh, I love him. Stuff like that. Fuck that. And fucking bead. I'll say it once again. And your whole reasoning for why you don't like fans saying it is there's kids in the stands and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, there are. And there's a lot of arenas also where a lot of cussing goes on. And Wells Fargo is one of them. There's a lot of fuck this and fuck that in the crowd yelling every which way. So listen, once again, when somebody points a finger at one other person, there's four pointing right back at them. And that's what's going on in this case right here, Joel. You can't just point us out and say that the Raptor fans are all this because we are just the same as Philly fans. We're just the same as New York fans. We're just the same as Celtics fans. There are F bombs dropped all over the place. And that's just the truth of it. And listen, we're just giving you the Philly treatment right back to you. So you can't say that this like we're tacky for this because there's all fan bases in the league will drop that F bomb at different times and stuff like that. So yeah, it's hilarious. It is very hilarious. Tom Duke saying Embiid was right to say fans shouldn't chant fuck anybody. He's also a big X factor in that Miami series, at least going to make it a series. I agree that the profanity in front of children is not right. But also at the same time, it's not like their building isn't exempt from that. There's a lot of that kind of stuff coming from the crowds in their buildings also. In fact, I would venture to guess that some of the colorful cussing by a Philadelphia fan at the game could be very like almost an art. Like they say in Christmas Story, that movie with the Ralphie and them is like the dad's changing the tire and Ralphie's describing like the dad's curse words. He was an artiste with a paintbrush with his cussing and stuff like that. This is how a Philadelphia fan can be with their cussing also at games. So it's like, listen, come on, stop throwing stones when you live in a glass house yourself, Joel. And like you're lying when you say we're not in your head because we're week done now. And you're still talking about us. And that's like 1 + 1 = 3 is what you're trying to tell us. It's because it doesn't add up. You say we're not in your head, but then you're still talking about us a week later. So it doesn't make any fucking sense. G saying at least he cleared up Pascal elbowing him unintentionally. Yeah, he did say that, and he says that they're friends. They're cool with each other. So as Philly fan, chill the fuck out. Pascal is not trying to hurt his friend Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid understands that he was not trying to hurt their friends, and they're cool with each other and stuff like that. So Tom Duke says, so true. I would probably be chanting fucking B, laugh out loud. I would too. If the crowd was with it and I was feeling it, yeah, I would do it too if I was at that game. I probably would. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I guess there is if there's little kids right next to you and stuff like that. But come on, let's give me a break. Little kids know that word and they've heard it in different places and stuff like that. They're not supposed to use it themselves, but I understand. But it's also kind of like, it's sports. Come on. This is how it's always been. It's been much worse in different places in different ways. And that's the one thing that y'all are, they're very nitpicky about us. It's kind of like they look at Raptors fan nation and they're saying this is how you should be and this is how you should be well behaved and all this kind of stuff. Don't put us in the box or things like that. We're going to be who we are and we're going to do what we're going to do. And fuck y'all for trying to tell us how we're supposed to be as a crowd and all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's so stupid. It's it's sports and crowds are crowds, and there's going to be bad individuals and fan nations. There's going to be good individuals and fan nations. And for y'all to just randomly paint a wide brush saying that all Raptor fans are this or all Raptor fans are that makes y'all put you in a bad place, whoever's making those opinions, because it's basically just like you're stereotyping is basically what you're doing. Let's see. Raymond Jacobs saying, laugh out loud at G. We all know our dog Pascal was looking out for all of us. Unintentional, right? Wink, wink, wink. I still listen. That doesn't help anything, Raymond Jacob. Listen, I know he didn't do that on purpose. It's just maybe partly just like the events of things just happened the way they were supposed to because of basketball gods out there wanted this to happen this way. That maybe there's some sort of basketball god force out there that wanted to teach Joel a lesson about being a clown. And that's what this was about and stuff like that. But, hey, listen, they won their game last night. They won by 20 points last night, and they're still talking about the Raptors. Like, what the fuck? Come on. I feel bad for Lowry. I think Lowry's in a similar case to where, Fred was for us, is that I think he's hurt, and he's going to have a really hard time helping them because he didn't score any points last night. And, Miami didn't look good last night. And it's not even that Embiid was really the big factor. Danny Green was crazy last night, hitting the threes. And Harden and Maxey were absolutely great too. But Embiid's presence was very helpful to them for sure last night. But yeah, let's see what else. Tom Duke saying best part of that game was for sure. Little kids would be upset with him showboating during the airplane. Listen, if I was a parent and I had a child, I would be teaching him just straight up the truth. So part of the problem is that parents hide things from their kids and they learn the wrong ways from the wrong people, whether it's their peers, they teach them things about sex or cussing or really fucked up things that parents just are scared of and dreading talking to their children about. And that sometimes it's better for the parent to be the offensive and just go right ahead and just lay it on the line and say, this is the truth of it, son. The chant that they're doing isn't right. And I don't want to hear you ever saying it publicly or anything like that. It's a bad word and you shouldn't be doing it, but this is what they're doing. And this is, we can't control this. And this is whatever, just be a proactive parent and be involved in your kid's life and help them understand things instead of hiding things from them so that they find them out maybe in a really messed up way down the road. And, that may be way worse for them. So sometimes it's just better for a trusted parent to just explain to the child exactly this or this. Like, why did Will Smith slap Chris Rock? Something like that, just explain it to them, tell them the truth. And as much as you can, because kids are smart. You need to not poo-poo it or make it sugar-coated or something like that. Tell them the truth. It'd be really good. And this is the other thing. If the father sees the airplane by Joel Embiid, they can tell the child, don't ever do that in a game. Don't ever act like him in the game. He's a really good, bad example for you of what to do when you're winning in a game. Don't do that. That's the kind of thing. You just have communication with your kid. and you keep them up to date. And the whole argument about, oh, they're cussing and stuff like that, whatever. It's like so crazy. All right, let me get back to the list for Masai Ujiri. One of the other things I really like about Masai Ujiri is that he's a pioneer in some ways, and he's also kind of a role model, as I was saying, for people. Like, he really kind of is like, he's his whole commentary in his interview this week about the black coaches in the NBA and how well they did this year is really important. And he even brought up the black front office executives also, which there are not that many in the NBA. There never have really been that many in team presidents or GMs or any kind of ownership of NBA teams by African Americans or just minorities in general. So it's really important and good that he is in the position that he is in, because once again, just like how you have more female announcers and referees and stuff like that, it's really good to show an example for people, to show them that there's ceilings that can be broken and get up into a higher level and excel at and stuff like that. And that's a real part of what he's doing, is that he's breaking glass ceilings in some ways for men like him. And that's another thing that I super admire him, because in some ways he has a mark on his back, like Jackie Robinson did way back in the day, like the first couple of African American players in the NBA, because he's in uncharted territory in some ways with his team, his position on the Raptors. And you see the racism and the messed upness from people like Ted Rogers III at treating him like that at the beginning of the year, when he called them and said, "You're not worth this money, and I'm totally against you getting paid this," and stuff. To me, it purely smacks of racism. And then also you got the whole thing that happened at the end of the Game 6 in the 2019 finals on the Warriors court with that security sheriff guy, and that you see the racism still there. That it's so public and it's right out in front of everybody, that you can see somebody like him getting to this ascension, to this position on the Raptors was not easy. And that there are forces that are racist and messed up out there that hate the fact that he is in that position in certain ways and stuff like that. So that's a really interesting part about him that I really respect and like about him also. And then another one, I was like, I said, his journey, and another one is his humanitarian work, and that his legacy is really closely linked to Nelson Mandela. That he wants to do a lot of the work that Nelson Mandela did in his own life, through his own life, in the prism of how he can do it from the basketball world. And that there's so many different projects and different social programs and humanitarian kind of things that Masai Ujiri is doing, that is super fantastic, and puts us as an organization, like, we do things for the rest of the world as the Toronto Raptors franchise that no other sports team is out there doing in some ways, whether it's the Giants of Africa and the things that he's doing with building basketball courts over there, or the things that we did during the Tampa season with really putting Black Lives Matter on blast around our team. And some other sports franchises and other teams in the NBA were not doing it as hard as we were. And we were the Canadian team even. So that's really important, that we have a social conscience. And that really does come from Masai Ujiri. That if we didn't have Masai Ujiri on our team as team president, I don't know how politically active the Toronto Raptors would be as a team, or how politically minded, or how much they would actually put stuff out there. We're talking about yesterday the SCOTUS stuff, and why Brittany Donaldson's calling out like them to say something about this case. And I was like thinking about it more and more. And I'm like, well, we did say, oh, well, it's Canada and that's the US and other things. But I think about it, more I think we should say something. But also we have to realize that's such a wedge issue, abortion. And that, in some ways, it's like the Raptors have already turned a lot of people off from liking the team, partly because of their politics already. Not that these people are people we want anyway, but that they could go even further by kind of throwing their glove and the gauntlet into the, saying that this is where we stand on it as far as things like that. And maybe at a certain point, you just want to cut your losses and not like get involved in every single fight. You want to pick the ones that really kind of help. And the other thing I was thinking about more about with Brittany Donaldson's statement is that right now the Raptors are out of the playoffs and they don't really have a bright spotlight or a good like platform to echo or put this message out because they're done. And there's like it could be one thing that Masai Ujiri comes out and does a press conference and just says something, but that's not really going to get the attention that the way that they did during the Black Lives Matter movement, stuff like that, with the jerseys, the bus, the players talking after the game and their post game interviews about these issues and stuff like that. So I thought more about that and stuff like that. Raymond Jacobs said, I'm pretty sure kids love seeing Embiid's thrust the process move, such a role model for kids. Yeah, when he was on the ground doing the Triple H, Shawn Michaels, DX, suck it, like motion. Yeah, we all know what that is as wrestling fans. We know what he's doing there and what it connotates. And maybe some people don't, but that's what. Listen, that's what I'm saying. This guy can't pick and choose. It's like he's really getting like some of the politicians in the states where they can do no wrong themselves, and as soon as somebody does the same thing that they do on the other side, they're all over them. And this is exactly the same thing as far as things with Philly fans and Joel Embiid picking and choosing. Like, listen, I'm on the side of the Raptors, and I will say when we've been wrong too. Sure, we've been wrong saying fuck Embiid. Sure, we've been wrong for being happy that Joel Embiid got nailed in the face, but we weren't happy that he got hurt. We were maybe wrong for being, yay, he got hit in the face. But we didn't know that he was getting injured, and that's the difference there. And you guys can paint it all how you want, Philly Nation, but that's the truth of it. We didn't know how injured he was until 2 days later. So it's messed up. Tom Duke saying Masai rebuilt the Raptors home away from home as best as he could for the Tampa tank. That was a great B-ball and really helped people at that very crazy moment in time, historic. That's another thing. Yeah, this is a great thing to appreciate Masai Ujiri for, is that, he had the organization running and oiled up and running so efficiently that we could transplant our whole entire team for a season and play in another place. And because our franchise is run at such high quality, such good professionalism, that it really probably was easier for us to do than other teams. Like there would probably be some crazy dysfunction if like Sacramento had to do what we had to do. Just think of all the folly and craziness that could have happened for them. Maybe their players had no place to stay. They could have all this, but Masai is making sure that the team is getting taken care of to the ultimate level that they need, and made sure that that transition to playing in Tampa for one season was very smooth and as easy as possible for the everybody involved, the coaches, the players, the staff, everybody. And that's really big. And that is honestly, in some ways, a down low, super huge accomplishment. Like, how often does this happen in sports? I know this happened with some of the New Orleans teams because of Katrina, where they had to go and play in other arenas and stuff. But being displaced like that and having to get it all together and have it work, and dealing with Amalie Arena and Tampa things all of a sudden is out of kind of your jurisdiction, and it's really, really, really a superb professional job that the Raptors did being transplanted in the Tampa year. And on the download, that is actually a huge accomplishment that we should celebrate, that our team is so great and functional and badass that if we had to go do something like that, like we did, we can do it really well and be successful still. I mean, people won't say that that year was successful because of our record, but considering everything we were dealing with and everything, I think that it was a huge success. That, think about it this way. We went through that Tampa tunnel, and we kept a lot of the winning culture from the year before through the really bad year in Tampa, and kept that culture still the year after this past year we just played. So it's a very big deal. Let's see. Raymond Jacobs saying he did it again in the Heat game. And I'm like, isn't that like the big balls move? Should he be fine? And Beat is literally telling everyone to suck it. So he did it again last night. Yeah, see, whatever. The guy's a big hypocrite. And like, honestly, I don't care what he thinks anymore at this point. Like, he says he doesn't like us anymore. That's fine. Let's just keep it all out in the open and stuff like that. And I'm not going to ever try and like you ever again, Joel. I honestly respected you before the series this year, and now I don't. And listen, you could have gotten more respect or gotten even more love from the Raptors fans if you hadn't acted like that. Like, James Harden is like, holy crap. I'm like, James Harden's a badass. I'm actually thinking, like, I have way more respect for James Harden out of this series with him in Toronto, and not you. And that's just more telling about how you've acted. Don't forget about us. We're going to be acting all kinds of crazy because, there's so many different fans. You got so many different people. They're going to act so many different ways. You're going to have really nice grandma fans that are really sweet and like, oh, everybody get along. And then you're going to have crazy people that are like Philadelphia fans that are party guys that are in their young 20s and they want to just like cuss and like be like really trolling and acting crazy towards y'all's fan nation on social media. So listen, there's all different flavors of it, Joel. And at least we're now a little more honest on where we stand with each other at this point. I like that better than just being like, kind of like, I like the Raptors fans. They're nice and stuff like, well, now things are a little bit more honest and I'm all for it and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm not going to go super long today, guys. I just wanted to come in and just show some appreciation for Masai Ujiri that Tim Lewicki bringing him to the Raptors franchise and having him as the GM and then moving up to team president was a really big, huge thing because he really helped establish this winning culture and the culture of the Toronto Raptors that we presently have today. And that him being somebody involved in the team, he could be our Red Auerbach for the rest of his life. That would be absolutely fantastic because that would mean we are definitely getting quality and getting hard work and getting the right people in the right positions for a long, long, long time. And that more and more as time goes on, the NBA is going to need to recognize that the Raptors are a really good franchise and a really good team year in and year out, and that they should be getting the same kind of respect that teams like the Miami Heat and the Golden State Warriors get, because these are all franchises that are former champions and they're run with a real level of excellence in all kinds of different ways. So the more that the NBA, I challenge you, NBA, start looking at us like you look at the Miami Heat, or start looking at us like you look at the Golden State Warriors. Because in a lot of ways, our franchise is very similar to both of those franchises. And the further you guys continue to deny it or poo-poo it or say that this isn't this and this and this, is once again the weatherman calling for rain, and it's never rained in a week, all every day and stuff like that. So let's see. Tom Duke saying, speaking of kids, how about that French 18-year-old Victor Wembanyama? Talk about potential. I'm not sure who you're talking about. This is a basketball player, right? I'm going to guess. I did look at a lot of like prospects for the draft, and I even been kind of looking at the free agency list. There's one name that's really intriguing me on the draft list, and he's definitely a project. He's only 19 years old, but he's 7'1" and he can shoot threes and he's super mobile. And that is John Butler Jr., freshman out of Florida State. He did not play with Scotty at Florida State, but he did play with Coach Hamilton, who is the guy who got Scotty ready for the NBA. And Coach Leonard Hamilton is really good at preparing guys for pros. Now, this kid's 7'1" and he's a bomber. He hits threes. Like, that's his thing. He likes to shoot threes and he's very good at it. But he's very skinny also. He's got a frame kind of like Chris Boucher. So he may be a little duplicitous with Chris Boucher, but he is 7'1", which is taller. So he's a very interesting prospect to me. John Butler Jr., Florida State Seminoles, freshman. And they haven't projected from anywhere from like really low. And then there's like, oh, he's like, he could be kind of high and stuff like that. But he's a project. And he may not be worth drafting because he may be somebody who gets undrafted. But that's a name that I want to remember. John Butler Jr. Is one that I'm thinking about. And then listen, Julian Champagnie is all over mock draft boards right now. And I've seen him as in the end of the first round. I've seen him in like the 50th pick or something, a 40th pick or something like that. And I've seen him right near our pick. It may be smart to go ahead and get Julian, since we already have Justin, and have that set and see if these guys can really get that twin synergy and stuff like that. If we pick Julian Champagnie at number 33, it wouldn't be a bad pick in some ways. I don't know exactly what he is different from Justin as far as things, and maybe they're similar, but for some reason that the idea of having Julian and Justin on the team together, for some reason makes me think that would be a really strong unit together. But maybe they're too duplicitous and you don't need two of those kind of players on there also. Let's see. Raymond's saying technically the Raps should be talked as much as the Lakers, since the Lakers personnel is like all from the Raps. Soon, Adrian Griffith. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know if that's likely. They're interviewing a lot of people. They're interviewing Terry Stotts, Mark Jackson. There's a lot of different people. Also, talking about Adrian Griffin, his son is projected in the top 10. AJ is looking like the eighth or sixth pick, somewhere in there, a 10, 8, or 6, somewhere in there that he's up there that high. And, it'd be very interesting. Tom Duke's saying that would be awesome to have a set of brothers. I think it would be pretty cool, especially twins and them really knowing each other and stuff like that. But I don't know also. We've really got to trust in Bobby and Masai, and hopefully they just make the right pick. Now, one of the things I want to tell you guys about when you're going to look at mock drafts or any experts like trying to tell you what they think the draft is going to be, a really easy way to see whether you need to listen to the people that wrote it or not is go see who they put for the Raptors at 33. Now, if you see them put the name JD Davidson or any kind of small guard, don't believe anything that mock draft says, because they're basically the same people that were saying last year that we were supposed to take Jalen Suggs. And that's kind of bullshit. Like, sometimes these NBA draft experts, they like to just pencil in on our slot the small undersized guard, and usually the guard can't shoot. Like, I went and looked at JD Davidson. A lot of people put him on at our slot for 33. And I'm like, why would we want this guy? He's 6'4" and he can't shoot. And I'm just like, it smacks of the NBA just trying to saddle us with more like players that are useless for us. That they've done this throughout the years. Like, whenever there's mock drafts and there's Toronto Raptors, they'll put a player that's absolutely useless for us just to fill in because they don't care about who we take themselves. So if you see any mock draft or any draft report about who should take who, and then you look at the Raptor spot and they have an undersized guard in that spot, immediately just say this is bullshit and don't even read it. Don't even read what they're saying or anything, because this is somebody that's like thinking that way for us. And they don't really understand our team and stuff like that. AJ does look great. He looks really great. And it's not going to be realistic for us, but yeah, lots of interesting players in this draft. The more I looked at it, there's some really interesting guys. There's a guy named Nikola Jovic. It's not Jokic, it's Jovic. It's very interesting. it's very, very interesting. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap up now just at 40 minutes. Thanks for coming to the Saturday Share Love Club. We love Masai Ujiri. We trust in Masai. We believe in you, Masai. Whatever you do is gold. You keep doing what you do. Because listen, nobody's put one on him over on him. He's not going to get fleeced. He's not going to get robbed in a trade. He's not going to hit a bust. He's going to hit a grand slam home run every single time he makes a draft pick. And that we need to understand, even though we went down in the draft order because of the Thad Young, Goran Dragic trade down to 33, that it didn't matter, because he could pick 13 spots after that and still get a really good player. He may even get the player he wanted at 20 at 33 still. And as we said in the past, this is a cost-cutting move too, because a first-round salary is much higher than a second-round salary. So we don't have to pay a first-rounder this year. That actually helps our salary cap. We just pay a second-rounder instead. So basically, trust in Masai, believe in Masai. What a G. He's telling them to keep dreaming. Go ahead and keep dreaming. He's telling them, fuck Brooklyn. Fuck Brooklyn. He's just a badass. And thank you, Masai Ujiri, for making Toronto your home and making this team such a badass team, going more and more forward. Like, I shook your hand and said thank you to you personally. I would do it every single day since, because nothing has changed in the 8 years since that day. So thank you, Masai. Oh my gosh. Lolita's saying, just watch Chris Boucher's podcast. Yeah, he has a new hustle play. I have to watch it. He was saying good things about the Raptors organization, and he's thankful. He's such a wonderful Raptor. Yeah, I really hope we re-sign him. I'm going to watch that this afternoon and look for tells about his free agency, about how he's leaning. And hopefully he's just saying, hey, I'm going to stay. I'm staying. Tom Duke saying, trust in Raptors Prez, Masai Ujiri. Yes. And Shane Waters saying, I like your take on things. Keep up the positive vibes and info on the Raps. Right on, Shane. Listen, man, please hit that red subscribe button. I'm here every single morning. I'm not taking an off season. I'm going to come in here and talk Raptors every single day at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me live on YouTube. And if you have something you want to talk about with the Raptors, I'm always willing to talk about it with you, man. Whether it's a question, an idea, or just in general, a profession of love, being a Raptor fan and stuff like that. So yeah, look for me tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a Sunday special report. I think we're going to talk about the physicality in the NBA and whether it needs to be changed or how can we change the rules so that there's not so many players getting hurt like they are these days and people missing games because of load management and stuff like that. That's what we're going to talk about on the Sunday special report tomorrow, I believe. All right. Appreciate that, Shane. All the best, guys. Have a fantastic Saturday. It's finally getting warm. It's been such a long, cold May so far. Finally getting warm. So get out there and have some fun outside and stuff like that. All right. Appreciate y'all. Let's go Raptors.